Today, for today's activity, we will be talking about Autism Awareness Consciousness Month with the theme and activism for autism. So, to start formally our event, let us put ourselves in the holy presence of God to be followed by our national anthem. Can you please stand?
Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. Please help us to come together to make this institution reflect your kingdom. Breathe life into our ideas and decisions. Help us build a team that has love and respect at its heart. Give us the strength to continue working for your kingdom in this time of pandemic. Lord, come give us the inspiration to be the best we can be. May we be a shining example of your goodness and truth within, wherever we are. Inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Bayang magiliw, bebas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, buyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupi, di ka masisingil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mo kamang, ay ilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang nilalaan. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y nagumpay na nag-iigil, ang bituin at harap niya kailan mapapagpagdidilig. Lupa ng araw ng maraming pagsita, mayayangin sa lingkod. Aming ligaya dapat may mamagin, at namatay ng tayo sa'yo.
Okay. Maybe I'll take our seats. And now may I call upon Attorney Burns to formally introduce Governor Lilo.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning to those who are here on site and also to our participants online. So allow me to just give a brief introduction of our beloved District Governor of the Rotary International District 3860. She is an educator, an entrepreneur, and a chamber advocate, but her enduring passion in service work is service work in Rotary. She has been teaching since 1983 at the St. Teresa's College Cebu, and she is presently a member of the STC Foundation. She has over 35 years of experience in marketing communication and is presently the managing director of Lilo Advertising and Marketing Solutions Incorporated. She served the district as a district governor's representative to the Philippine Rotary Magazine for 3 years. She has also served as chair for Global Rewards, deputy district governor for programs, PETSES chairs, district awards chair, district trainer, district secretary, and district Rotary Foundation committee chair. And so it comes as no surprise that she is now the district governor of District 3860 for Rotary year 2022-2023. It's all welcome District Governor Lilo Aliño.
Murag taas-taas yutong introduction da. Maayong buntag sa tanan. Good morning. Sus, maayo kayo no nga naagit ang tanan diri. No. Kay bawo ba mo nga naaman ta sa Zoom? So ang atong mga members sa Rotary na sa Zoom no all over the district, nakakita ko sa mga taga-Tagum, Davao, no nya naay say mga all other areas no na taga Surigao, wala ko ka memorize adto, but they are attending this webinar. Okay, there's also a portion that's a webinar. No, so unsa maning ang advocacy sa Rotary regarding autism. I remember when I was district secretary, our past district governor, then the district governor initiated that there will be Rotary action group called autism no awareness. So ato gyud gipadayon from 2016 to up to now no. So I'm the district governor now, but I believe in this awareness advocacy for autism because para sa mga Rotarians it is felt in the heart ang atong pag advocacy for autism, and it is something that Rotary believes in. Kay ang Rotary na ay gitawag og kanang kuan, we commit, we value, and we believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So atong gi-value ang any organization, any groups of people, anyone, and our PWD, no, persons with disability niya, katong mga nakaagto sa Dubai sa among Rotary Institute, ang PWD meant a lot of a greater thing, no? It's called PWD, that stands for persons with determination. No, that's very, very nice. So we believe in our cause for autism, and that's the reason why even today we also have an activity that will be held in General Santos City. No, so dili man ako mahiwa akong lawas, so naghimo kong video message alas 3 sa buntag para dito. They have actually also I think mga 3 or 4 activities in General Santos City. It's called I Am Autism. It's a full range of exhibit with photo showcases. Unya, naa po dito'y kanang kuan, naa po dito'y gitawag og fundraising. Karong gabiin na fundraising dito na involved ang mga families o mga other stakeholders who believe in our cause. And also, naa po sila mga autism talk. Mas maayo manggod ni nga ma-empowered ta, we will know and understand what autism is. Ang nakanindot sa ato apong kuan diri sa Cebu, because we have what we call, ganahan ba ako sa sabta ko no nato, let's all understand, no? Nya muingon gali tag sabta, ang nakanindot sa Cebuano, no? Kay mas deep siya, mas profound siya mo sabta ko no. Unsa man na kinahanglan sa kinasingkasing na pagsabot, no? So it says an activism for autism. Kinsa may nagmugna aning title? Ikaw, Burns? Kay I like the title very much because moingon kay activism, ganahan kang nay mahitabo, no? It's something that is vigorous, something that will take you to really act on something. So og nakasabot ta sa autism, unsa may atong buhaton, no? So unsa may, kung sa gobyerno pa na, unsa may polisiya nga himuon sa gobyerno aron mas ma-activate nato ang atong cause, no? So karon nalipay ko, we have Rotarians all over our district sa Visayas and Mindanao who are all listening to us and who will be listening to the talks, no? So naay talk si Attorney Burns, ato aning legal officer sa District Rotary International District 3860. Unya naasad si Ma'am Sandra, ato ang co-chair sa spouse program nato sa district, no? Mo talk sad unya other visitor were si Socorro Delhero. Ganahan ta kay kumaminaw ani tanan, pero nag-multitask pod ko, no? Kay naasad milaing programa. So what we will do the whole morning is to understand with open hearts. So ako jong pasalamatan og dako kayo. I thank the organizers of this activity. ang Rotary Club of Cebu Fuente mo ni siya atong host no, o Rotary Club of Cebu Guadalupe, no, atong duha ka host for this activity PWD Talk karong buntag. And then we also have Reach Foundation, ang atong mga Rotaractors, Reach Center, no? Ang atong mga Rotaractors sa Cebu Fuente, atong community-based o school-based, who are also represented here. And of course, DSWD Batosan, no? is also helping us, as well as Cebu City. Dako amo pasalamat sa Cebu City, no? So for all your commitment to even be present here physically and online, we know that it matters to you what we are advocating for autism. And I truly appreciate your presence. Unya, atong ibawon nga ang mga Rotarians especially, no, kay naa man gud may commitment to serve. Commitment to service above self. So mangmuan gyud mi, maninguha gyud mi nga makat-on mi og unsa say among mabuhat regarding sa awareness sa autism. And what I really value is that kuan man kung makaibaw ta ani, especially na may legal aspect, no? So naay mga maestra sad nga naminaw nato ron sa kuan kay those I think a school who will be who are also managing students with autism, you know, mga special needs, no? So talipay na ko dako ang atong pag-gather karon. Unya nagpasalamat ko sa atong mga Rotarians who are very supportive of this cause, and kanang naagid nila ang kasing-kasing ang passion for autism. And we all celebrate today because it's a whole week of celebration for autism, and we all want to imagine Rotary fulfilling big dreams for our autism stakeholders. Daghan kayong salamat sa tanan.
Thank you for that wonderful and meaningful message, Governor Lilo Alino. So now we have another Rotarian that would give us a short message. Let us all welcome our past governor, our past district governor, Sir Yumi Espina.
Okay, may buntag ninyong tanan, no? It's supposed to be delivered the welcome address by Dr. Concha. No, Dr. Concha is the president of the Rotary Club of Guadalupe. And I'm the past governor. But both of us are employed by the city of Cebu. We are employees. Dr. Concha is the chair, department head of the SWS. Niya na, Dr. Concha. Ikaw diri, Doc. And I'm also the department head of the City Planning and Development Office, Cebu City. So, sirte kaitang nakagamit ning venue kay ni asami sa Cebu City. Well, anyway, thank you for coming. Welcome to this SABTA and Activism for Autism. It was very well explained by District Governor Lilo, and I'm glad that she has accepted and made the autism as a district program, no? District program. Importante kay ni nato because a lot of people do not understand what autism is. So this seminar will explain to you what this disability is, because kani autism is a lifetime disability. Many of the children cannot even cope, no, become part of society if they are not managed well. So our speakers here will explain to you unsa gyud autism, no, what it is about, and what are the rights of the persons with unsa to go determination. Bagong term, no? It's not disability but determination, PWD. That's a better term. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm supposed to be just an observant here. I'd like to give the floor to our department chair of the Department of Social Welfare and Services, Dr. Esther Concha. Doc, ikaw diri, Doc. Thank you.
Thank you. May buntag. Patingugon pag yun ko ni. Okay. Thank you for coming. Yeah. I would like to thank also the Rotary Club of Cebu Fuente for having this activity, no, sa giingon na Sir Espina. Dili tanan makadetect og autistic child, not even our daycare worker. That's why atong anam-anamon, no, lain-lain ni siya nga audience, lain-lain nga sektor, so that siguro sa inyong kadaghan kung naamoy mahibawaan nga usa, that's good enough for us kaysa zero. Okay, then gamay-gamay ra ni siya nga audience, no? For now we're having about 40, but hopefully in the next coming days or months we will have more. Then thank you Goblilo for coming over, sa atong mga speakers and all members of the Rotary Club of Cebu Fuente. Thank you for having this activity with us. Ayong buntag pag-usap. MC.
Thank you for that wonderful message, Dr. Concha. So now I would like to give the floor to okay. Now to introduce and recognize our first speaker. It will be introduced by Ma'am Sandra Espina, our school directress of Reach Center and a spouse of PDG Sir Yumi.
Thank you very much. Hello. Hi. Very nice response for this morning. I would like to welcome you all to our autism forum for this morning, but let me introduce formally our first speaker. Our first speaker is Attorney Bernardino T. Amago IV. He is a partner of the Amago and Obnimaga Miral Law Offices, a loose partnership engaged in general legal practice. Attorney Amago started his practice in law in 2012 at the Cebu branch at Accra Law and spent one productive year with the corporate and special projects and taxation departments of Accra Law head office in Bonifacio, Global City in Taguig. He obtained his degree in Bachelor's of Science in Accountancy from the University of San Carlos of Business and Economics in 2007, where he graduated magna cum laude and earned a distinction of the most outstanding graduate. Fresh from graduation and without the benefit of formal review, he took and passed the May 2007 CPA board examination. He immediately went to law school and completed his Bachelor's of Law at the University of San Carlos of Law and Governance in March of 2011, while teaching in the accountancy department of the same university. He took and passed the exacting standards of the 2011 bar examinations through self-review. Bright yun ni si Attorney Burns. Butan pagyud, compassionate pagyud sa mga persons with determination. And every time I ask him, Attorney Burns, pwede ba na naana sa taylain to? Okay ra gyud tita. Wa gyud balibad si Attorney Burns. So this is how gifted we are to have someone like Attorney Burns. Attorney Amago's area of law practice includes corporate and securities law, banking and finance, real estate, intellectual property law, immigration law, civil litigation, labor law, and taxation. He's also a lecturer for business law and taxation in the University of San Carlos CPA Review Center. Attorney Amago is currently the academic coordinator of the USC College of Law, where he also teaches commercial laws and taxation subjects. Attorney Amago is likewise a registered real estate broker. Mr. Amago is a lifetime member of the Philippine Institute of Certified Public Accountant, Cebu chapter, and the Integration Bar of the Philippines, Cebu City, where he sits as the auditor. Currently, he is the secretary of the Rotary Club of Cebu Fente and one of the district legal officer. Without much further ado, let us welcome the handsome and the passionate lawyer for the persons with determination, no other than Attorney Burns Amago.
Good morning, everyone, once again. Thank you for that very generous introduction, most especially the last part where he said that I am a handsome lawyer. So thank you very much indeed. So I've actually talked about this topic for quite some time now, and I do hope that you would still be able to learn more about it. And for those who will be learning about this for the first time, I really hope that you are able to get some insights that you may be able to apply in your day-to-day dealings with people with disability, but we can always call them people with determination. Okay, so just to be consistent with the theme for this month's Autism Awareness Consciousness, we will call this talk SABTA, an activism for autism, with emphasis on the rights and privileges of persons with disability under the Magna Carta for PWD. So, we'll go to the first slide, Pep. What is the name of this law? This is an act providing for the rehabilitation, self-development, and self-reliance of disabled persons and their integration into the mainstream of society and for other purposes. That's Republic Act number 7277. But through the years, this particular law has already been amended. Okay? So if you notice, there's a list there of several laws, di ba? Mga RA numbers. Oh, do you really have to memorize them? No, there's no need to memorize them. But of course, it would be nice if we are aware that RA 7277 has been amended. This much of its provisions, all for the purpose of increasing the privileges and for the protection of persons with disabilities. So RA number 9442 gave additional privileges and then delivered or protected our PWDs from verbal and non-verbal ridicule and vilification. We'll discuss more of that later on. RA 170 established the Persons with Disability Affairs Office in local government units, as well as the appointment of focal persons, okay, in every province, city, and municipality. RA 10524 expanded the equal opportunity for employment of PWDs. RA 154 granted VAT exemption to our PWDs. And then RA 11228 provided for the mandatory PhilHealth coverage of our PWDs. So you see, the amendments are really meaningful, okay? Most especially for our PWDs. Now, it may be best that we understand the term disabled persons because this is the term used in our law. So there's a definition provided in the law, and it reads, it will be shown in a while, that disabled persons are those who are suffering from restrictions or different abilities as a result of a mental, physical, or sensory impairment to perform an activity in a manner or within the range considered normal for a human being. Now, in that definition alone, it may be best that we also understand the term impairment. Because if you have this impairment, then that qualifies you to be a disabled person. Impairment as defined in the law refers to the loss, diminution, or aberration of psychological, physiological, or anatomical structure or function. So in short, really, it's your limit. It provides something that provides a limitation in your bodily function, but of course, not just physical, as well as mental and psychological. There are classifications of disabilities for purposes of registration of our PWDs. It may not be listed there, but just allow me to mention them. You have psychosocial disability, disability caused by chronic illness, learning disability, mental disability, visual disability, orthopedic disability, communication disability. And most recently, there is already the inclusion of cancer patients, persons living with cancer, and cancer survivors as part of PWDs pursuant to Republic Act 112-15. Now, since we're talking about autism, I would just like to refer to the disabilities where they may belong. So that's the problem with autism. The spectrum is very broad, that it can actually be a case where the disability of one person with autism can be covered by several disabilities based on the classification. And so this is the reason why there was once a proposal for a separate or a different classification for people with autism. Okay, but as of this time, that has not been approved yet, but hopefully they may provide for another classification really suited for people with autism. So, but nonetheless, where can people with autism fall? So they can fall under psychological disability. What is this psychosocial disability? What is this psychosocial disability? It pertains to any psychological or social condition that limits a person's ability to effectively interact with others. So people with this disability look fine from the outside, but have a tendency to display antisocial behavior, which we can actually perceive in some of individuals with autism, diba? They really look as if they don't have any limitations at all. Completely the same as the next person. But then they have certain peculiarities in terms of how they deal, especially with strangers. Their sensory sensitivity is completely different. Okay, and so that's why they sort of awkward when when dealing with other people, or they may not have any perception of the social norms. So that's why this should be considered as a disability. Okay. Second, they have learning disability also. So it's a disability that makes it difficult for a person to focus, comprehend, and retain information. It is usually detected and diagnosed during a person's time in school. So you may notice that teachers are the ones who are able to observe the disability of the student, especially children with autism. Because, di ba, in a group of children, you would see that he or she may be different in the way he deals with a classmate, in the way he is able to learn the subject matter. So the teachers are able to observe this. That's why normally this is diagnosed by the teacher, but not a medical diagnosis, just an observation. And so we understand that this particular child with autism could really fall under PWD then because of such learning disability. Another is mental disability, but probably because of a medical condition. So a mental disability is a mental illness triggered disability. So people with Down syndrome could be considered as falling under this disability, or one with a post-traumatic stress disorder. So something must have happened to the individual from the past that made him act differently in relation to a particular stimulus. So the reaction is now different. Okay. Also, um, communication disability, which is mostly an issue with of people with autism or children with autism, diba? They have the reason why they act the way they act is because they're not able to communicate well their feelings. Okay? And so a communication disability could fall under two subtypes, a hearing impairment and then a speech and language impairment. A person is said to be hearing impaired when he or she partially or completely lose his or her hearing ability. Meanwhile, a person with speech and language impairment has trouble articulating words. So you see, diba, especially young children, when they are first diagnosed with autism, they're not able to speak. Okay, but with proper intervention, you'd realize that they can also be productive. And that's why we always advocate for early diagnosis so that there can be early intervention and so the child can have a productive future. And so this is also the reason why we have to be aware about the rights and privileges of persons with disability, where people with disability could with autism could fall, so that we will not hesitate to have our family members, perhaps, or people we know be diagnosed with such. After all, it's not the end of the world. And that's the issue with people living with autism, or at least living with people with autism, because we feel that they may be a burden. Okay, but then we realize that that does not necessarily true, because they can have privileges, special privileges because of their special condition. So that being the case, we should be aware then what are their rights and privileges so that we can help them, okay, live a better and more productive future. Okay, so let's not hesitate. And that's the entire point of our advocacy. So be aware so that you can provide better diagnosis, or at least proper diagnosis, for those people with this particular disability. And then in a way, we can help them exercise their rights and privileges. Now, what are the rights and privileges? So beginning with employment. The law provides that people with disability, or PWDs, should be given equal opportunity for employment. In fact, there is supposed to be a reservation of 1% of regular and non-regular positions in all government agencies for PWDs. Then there is this concept of sheltered employment. It is a provision of productive work for disabled persons through workshops, providing special facilities, income-producing projects, or homework schemes with a view to giving them the opportunity to earn a living, thus enabling them to acquire a working capacity required in open industry. So more than 100 employees are encouraged to reserve at least 1% for PWDs, meaning businesses with more than 100 employees. Encourage lang, we cannot compel, because these are private entities, to reserve these possible positions for persons with disability. And then you would see later on that there really is an incentive if an employer will grant employment to persons with disability. In fact, I've already mentioned it there in the slide that employers can add 25% more of their deduction for tax purposes in the form of salary expense, and 50% more for repairs and maintenance or depreciation expense if ever they have to modify their facilities to accommodate persons with disability. So why not provide the opportunity then to PWDs if you can also have this particular incentive? Okay, so the reason why we're giving those incentives really is just to encourage our employers to provide employment to PWDs. They could also have apprenticeship and learnership intended for PWDs. Now, this particular concept of employment is not really different. This is provided already in the labor code. But of course, dealing with PWDs, you have to modify the methods of teaching them, okay, because of their limitations. Another privilege comes in the form of education. Okay? Under the law, there should be access to quality education given to PWDs. Financial assistance to economically marginalized and deserving students should also be provided under the Private Education Student Financial Assistance Program. This is actually being implemented by DepEd now. So should you know of someone with disability, you can apply for a scholarship grant, or at least for this particular financial assistance with DepEd. You just need to inquire from the school if this is being offered. But supposedly, because they are all under DepEd, and it's DepEd that will implement this particular provision of the law, then all schools should be able to provide this type of financial assistance. Then it is also provided under the law that at least one government-owned vocational and technical school in every province should be offering special vocational and technical training programs for disabled persons. So we may want to inquire from TESDA if there is a special program intended for individuals with autism. You may have heard of the issue some months ago about SPED or special education not given a budget by the national government. Oh, do you know the update on that? Okay. They've already been granted the budget. In fact, what was supposedly just a request for 532 million is already increased to 589.6 million. So part of the national budget approved for DepEd already includes special education. So we should all be thankful for, because our persons with disability, learning disability specifically, or children with autism will be able to avail of better facilities, better educational instructions in our public schools because it has a budget for 2023. Okay? Another privileges granted is in the area of health. So the National Health Program to aim to attain the following: prevention of disability, prenatally or postnatally, recognition and early diagnosis of disability, and early rehabilitation of the disabled persons. So certain cause-oriented groups work closely with the Department of Health in order to ensure that this particular mandate of the law is implemented. Okay? It should be that the Department of Health has a program relating to prevention of disability. Okay? Now, the law mandates that there should be free rehabilitation for PWDs in government hospitals. But then we have to realize also, diba, the situation of our government hospitals. We can only demand so much because they are also overwhelmed with all the requests for assistance. But it is a privilege though granted to PWDs. So we can demand free rehabilitation. But take note this is only true for government hospitals because you may want to go to, you may later on go to a private hospital and there's supposed to be free rehabilitation. Okay? The free rehabilitation is only available in government hospitals. And then if the local government units have recreational or sports centers that they own or operate, they are also given free access to it. So for example, our Abellana Sports Complex, that's a sports facility, people with disability can actually go there for free. They just have to show their identification card. Okay? Because that's provided under the law also. Now, auxiliary social services. In this aspect, the law provides that there should be provision of special training activities designed to improve the functional limitations of disabled persons related to communication skills. So this particular seminar could actually be related to this auxiliary social services, because it's an awareness webinar or seminar. Then we added more information drive in relation to the disability that can help them understand better their functional limitations. So development among disabled persons of a positive self-image through the provision of counseling, orientation, and mobility, and strengthening of daily living capability is likewise mandated under the law. So I hope that our social services in our LGUs are able to address this particular mandate. Okay? Maybe later on, you may want to inquire with your respective LGUs on what are the programs that they have implemented in relation to development of PWDs in this respect. So there should also be provision of family care services geared towards developing the capability of families to respond to the needs of disabled members of the family. Because what's normally difficult is not because the person has a disability, but it's also because the family does not accept the disability. So it takes a while for one to really admit that there is a special need necessary. So that's why we should also include in our information drive the family members and not just the person with disability, because they're the ones living with the PWD. So especially with children with autism, imagine the difficulty that the parents have to undergo, that the siblings have to understand. Okay? So they should then be given certain training, certain capability building, okay, to make them understand better their situation, and also to give them ideas on how they may be able to provide intervention of their family members. And then there should also be free postal charges on articles, literatures, aids, and orthopedic devices for personal use of persons with disability. I mean, provision of daycare services for disabled children of preschool age. So this one is also something that's implemented by our LGUs, at least in Cebu that I know of. Daycare services should not be limited to children without disability. It should also include children with disability. Okay, so the LGU then cannot refuse, okay, to accept a child just because of certain disability, because the law provides that there should be free daycare services for them. In terms of telecommunication, TV stations are encouraged to provide sign language insets or subtitles in at least one newscast a day and special programs covering events of national significance. If the disability is in terms of communication, then it may help that there is a sign language. So that's why you notice it in your TV whenever there's a news, diba? News program, they have this small screen below, diba, where someone is doing the sign language. That's pursuant to this particular law. They're also encouraged telephone companies to install special telephones for the hearing impaired. This one I'm not personally familiar with. I have not also personally encountered if this has been implemented. Okay. Then the last one that I mentioned a while ago would be the free postal charges on articles, literatures, aids, and orthopedic devices for personal use. So meaning, if you want to send through mail a certain tools or certain equipment for the disabled persons, if you course it through public postal service, it may be free. Okay, you just have to inquire. But the problem is if you will use the postal office in mailing, it will take a while. So you'll just have to wait and be patient then. But at least it's free. In terms of accessibility, the law is very clear that it should be barrier-free, meaning they should be able to move around in certain facilities. But now, especially for those with physical disability, accessing buildings, diba? Buildings or any structure for that matter requires that they have they provide special facilities for PWDs. That's why there are ramps provided in buildings, because it's a requirement. Because imagine if you have to do something in that building and there's no way that you can go up. So if it's already 4 floors, they are required to set up an elevator, okay, to help the PWDs. So provision of ramps and other accessible features is a requirement. And then access to public transport facilities through provision and designation of the number of seats for PWDs and placement of pertinent audiovisual aids are likewise mandated. Now, we already know that especially in jeepneys, the front seat is reserved or are reserved for PWDs. Okay, the same is true for taxis and other like Grab, diba? They supposed to also reserve the front seat for PWDs. In terms of political and civil rights, they should be provided assistance in voting. So when they reach the age of 18, they're supposed to be registered as voter in the respective LGUs. So that being the case, since they cannot write themselves or they may have difficulty reading, then they can ask someone to assist them. So it's their person of choice. Because imagine if it is a person with autism, diba? Not anyone can do the assistance. He or she has to be comfortable with the person assisting him. So it's a person of choice then. But there has need to be an execution of a formal document under oath that they will answer the ballot the same way that the based on the want and choice of the person with disability. That if they can actually communicate their choice. Okay, so it will be the person assisting. So there is a responsibility actually on the person who will do the assisting for PWDs in terms of voting. PWDs also have a right to assemble. And by assemble, to participate in concerted actions and events like this one ba? Okay, if there's a rally, there's a gathering for persons with disability, they may hold events. Okay, and they should be granted such a privilege just like any other individuals. Likewise, they have the right to organize, and so that's why there are certain organizations for certain causes involving disability. So there's organization for deaf mutes, there's even an organization for people afflicted with autism. And then the one that is really mostly availed of by persons with disability, and we should be happy giving it to them, is the discount in terms of certain services and purchase of goods, as well as VAT exemption now. So it's very clear under our tax laws that the 20% discount should be on top of the 12% value added tax exemption. So what you will do is that whatever is the price of certain goods and services, you isolate first the value added tax, because normally di ba naman ay value added tax ang imong services. So just make it very simple. So say for example, the total value of the services or the goods is 112 pesos. say 12% of that is the value added tax. So 12 pesos is the value added tax. So that means without the VAT, it's 100. So the basis then of the 20% should be the 100. So minus 20. So instead of paying 112, you just have to pay 80 pesos. So that's how it is computed. So isolate the VAT first, get the 20% of the value without the VAT, then deduct such 20%. That's the amount that you're supposed to be entitled to. But mind you, this is not available for all services. Magtuo niya ta mo palitag ice cream na atay 20% discount wa pag value added tax. That is not true for all, di ba? There are only certain items or certain forms of services that this may be applied. So on lodging establishments, by lodging establishments, we are referring to hotels, the inns, lodging or lodges. So all those related to short-term accommodations, then you can be granted 20% discount. Okay. Medical and dental services, diagnostic and laboratory fees, and professional fees of attending doctors are likewise subject to 20% discount and VAT exemption. This one, we should demand. Because diba, when you have disability, you have to visit your doctors most of the time. Restaurants, happy na dayon ta. Okay, restaurant. Kailan magdigid na mukao, no? So we should eat. So restaurants, but mind you again, like for example, you bring 5 PWDs and so 20% each supposedly. Do not expect that you will not pay anything because 20%, 100% na, right? And so wala na kay bayro nun. It doesn't work that way. Okay? So total 5 times 20, 100%. Wa na gyud libre na gyud ang among kaon if nay 5 ka buok na IPWD ID. Doesn't work that way, ha? So what will happen is that your total bill will have to be attributed to the individuals and then to you as well. So for example, there are 6 of you. Okay? And then the total, let's say the total bill is 600 pesos. 600 pesos will be divided by 6. So that means 100 each. Then for each 100, there is 20% discount given to the PWDs. If there are 5 with PWD ID, so 20% discount each, they will just have to pay 80 pesos. But you, who is not a PWD, will have to pay 100. So 80 times 5, that's 500, plus the 100 you're supposed to pay, 80 times 5, so 400 plus 100 for you. So that's 500 pesos. Okay, so you just have to pay 500. Sakto ba akong compute? No, sakto. 500 pesos. So instead of paying 600, you have to pay 500. I expect 100%. Diba? Okay, dili man na i-add ang 20% sa tagsa-tagsa ka TWDs. Wala like negosyo ang mga negosyante kung mo nagstoryaan, diba? So, recreation centers, like for example, bowling, alleys, you're supposed to be entitled to 20%. Sports facilities. Even the gym class, guys, you can also get 20% discount. Theater and cinema admission, you can likewise get 20%. Medicines and foods for special medical purposes. Domestic air and sea travel, there is 20% discount. But take note, it's domestic only. If you're flying abroad, you cannot expect the same discount. Okay, so why is it? Because we cannot bind the foreign jurisdiction. Okay, that's the reason why. So this is only true for domestic travels then. Land transportation travels, so you can demand, diba, how much 20% discount when you supposedly pay for your fare. And then for funeral and burial services, but the one who died must be the PWD. So dili pwede ang lola namatay, natay ang apo PWD na discount kung mupalit ta og lungon. No, it doesn't work that way. The decedent in this case must be the one with PWD ID. Okay? So it's actually quite a lot if you come to think about it. And we're happy to provide it so that our PWDs will continue to be productive members of our community. Diba? So supposedly there is a provision that PWDs who are, or if the PWD who are within the fourth civil degree of consanguinity or affinity to the taxpayer, regardless of age, and who are not gainfully employed and chiefly dependent on the taxpayer, will be treated as a dependent of the family member who's chiefly supporting such PWD for purposes of taxation, income tax. But you already know that our income tax has been changed in 2018. There is no deduction anymore for dependents. Okay? Wala na siya gi-provide because all of us is entitled to a 250,000 non-taxable income. When before, it was just 25,000 for every dependent, and if you have dependent, now 250 for everyone. It's uniform. Okay, so this particular privilege of tax exemption on PWD as a dependent is no longer available. Okay, I want it to be clear because the last seminar I gave on this particular topic, they thought that if they're employed, they will demand from their employer that I should have a deduction equivalent to 25,000 per dependent because my child has autism. That's not available anymore because it is provided in the law 35B, section 35B of the NIRC, of the Tax Code of the Philippines. But this 35B has already been amended. There's no dependent anymore. Okay? But we should be happy still because then it's already 250,000 when before it's only 50 plus 25. So 50 for basic personal exemption, 25,000 for every dependent, maximum of 4 pag yun. So if you total that, if you really have 4 dependents, that's 100 plus 50, only 150,000 exemption. Now, it's across the board 250,000 exemption for everyone. So we should not be so sad about it. Also, in relation to tax exemption, if you donate to organizations supporting PWDs, you as a donor can get a deduction from your income tax in the form of charitable contribution, either at the form of 10%, 5% for corporations, 10% for individuals. So if you're an individual donating and you have an income tax that you're supposed to pay, should not be purely compensation income earner, meaning na kay business or you're exercising your profession, so you have professional income, so you're supposed to be allowed certain deductions. One of that deduction is supposedly charitable contribution. When you donate to organizations with PWDs, if they do not have certain accreditation, then you can just avail of 10% of the value, actual contribution, or it will be complicated, 10% of the taxable income net of all deductions except charitable contribution. So a bit technical. But nonetheless, just be mindful, there is a 10% deduction. But if the organization of the PWDs is accredited by the Philippine Council for NGO, Philippine Council for NGO certification, or Philippine PCNC, I think that's the meaning, Philippine Council for NGO certification, you can avail of 100% deduction of the amount that you really donated. Okay, so we encourage organizations, okay, to be accredited with PCNC, or if it's related to charity, it can be the accreditation from DSWD. you can also avail of the 100% deduction. I understand that Reach Center has just been accredited by DSWD. So if you donate to Reach Center, you can avail of 100% deduction of the amount that you actually donated. There should also be exemption from taxes and duties on importation of donated items from abroad for persons with disability, like wheelchairs donated by certain individuals from abroad to be donated to an organization here in the Philippines on those advocating for PWDs. The importation duties are supposed to be zero. Okay, it's exempted. There should also be preferred area of investment on local manufacturing of technical aids and appliances used by disabled persons to encourage businesses to invest in the manufacturing perhaps of wheelchairs, of hearing aids, and all those other tools and equipment that may help the disabled persons. So kanang mga perhaps scratches or anything that can help, okay, the disabled persons. Now, understand though that in relation to all the privileges, how to avail later on, we'll proceed there. But in relation to all the privileges, if the establishment is already providing a higher discount, like say for example, it's 50% discount on the supposed cost of a food, do not demand 20% more. So that pila naman na 50% na down discount na pag 20% of the 50%, kamo na lang magnegosyo. Nagnegosyo na lang din sila para ipakaon ninyo. Okay, so it doesn't work that way. You can only avail of whichever is higher. Diba? So if it's 50% discount of the food items, do not anymore require 20% additional discount. So it's one or the other. Okay? But of course, always choose the higher discount. Okay? Like kan say ka, di gyud ko anang 50% kay 20% ra gyud ako ah. Doesn't make sense, di ba? Oh, so choose the higher one. Okay. So how are you supposed to avail? So this one should be understood. Okay? I want to emphasize this because there are certain establishments that will not accept these forms of identification. Under the law, it's not just the PWID that may be used as proof of availing of the privileges. The law says identification card issued by PDAO or the CRM, that's City or Municipality Social Welfare Development Office. Then most likely that's your PWD ID. But there could also be a PWID issued by the, it's no longer NCDA, that's already the National Council for Welfare, National Council for the Welfare of NCWDO, National Council for Welfare, Disability Office, something, for Welfare of Persons with Disability, for Persons with Disability Office. So they've changed the NCDA, the National Council for Disability Affairs. So passport is actually allowed as an identification for persons with disability. The problem is that you still need to be registered with your LGU, with your specific PDAO, so that you can avail of the discount. And so that's why we may be able to understand the establishments if they refuse. But if it's really obvious, diba? Obvious jud kaayo. Like for example, for the lack lang ha of kanang a better word, wa gyud kay kamot. As in, wa jud kay kamot. Yeah, the only ID that you have is your passport. Don't tell me, di gyud sila mo grant mo og kuan, grant mo og discount because you're not able to show your PWD ID. Diba? When it's very obvious, these other forms of identification should already be acceptable. Diba? You just have to look at the spirit of the law, not specifically look at the words stated there. Also, my spirit to grant privileges to PWD, very obvious, PWD. So you grant it. Okay? That's how it should be. Now, there is an automatic PhilHealth coverage for all persons with disability. But yes, yes, guys, it says automatic coverage. But that automatic is not really automatic because you still have to register with your MC or C or M Social Welfare Development Office. What does it mean? That persons with disability do not have to pay for the premiums to PhilHealth. Diba? Us who are working supposed to pay our PhilHealth dues. So if you're a PWD and you are not working, take note, the PWD must not be working. The premium will be paid for by government. So that means they're already covered with PhilHealth, even if they do not pay their contributions. But if the PWD is working, then there's a requirement that you have to pay. Okay, just the same because you have money, you have means of paying, man. So your employer will cover their share of the premium. You will also cover your share of the premium. This particular privilege is only true for PWDs who are not working, not part of the formal sector. So if you are working, the employer and the national government will share in the premium. Okay, so i-appeal ang government. So let me correct myself. The PWD still will not pay. It will just be the employer and the national government. Okay, if not working entirely, the national government will pay for it. And then there is this deliverance from public ridicule, which I mentioned a while ago. We have to understand what we mean by public ridicule is the act of making fun or contemptuous imitating or making mockery of persons with disability, whether in writing or in words or in action due to impairment. Diba? Kanang magkimpang-kimpang ka just for the purpose of humiliating a person with disability. Or you make faces just to put to shame the person with disability. That is already a violation of the law. There's a penalty for it already. So we should refrain from doing that. Okay? Kanang sa mga movies, when they try to project a person with disability all for the purpose of making it into a comedy, that cannot be allowed anymore. Okay? That will already be considered a public ridicule. Now, if you utter words like, hoy, kimpang, bungol, ana, kana nga mga term, that will fall under vilification. Next slide. Which is also prohibited now. Utterance of slanderous and abusive statements against a person with disability, such as but not limited to calling a person by his disability in public, which results in humiliation, using the disability of a person as an example in a manner that is embarrassing and humiliating to the dignity of persons with disability. So that will already be prohibited. That's in fact subject to penalties, including imprisonment. So we'll see the penalties later on. So you must have, I don't know if you've seen it in the social media, that there was this one person who got angry at a child with autism in a coffee shop. That particular person can actually be liable for this. Okay? When you got, diba? So you should be careful when you try to insult a person or even a family member of a person with disability, especially with children, diba? With autism, involving children with autism, because they normally cannot be controlled the same way that a child without such disability can be controlled. Diba? They want to run around. Diba? ADHD is even a disability. That's recognized under the law. So they shout all of a sudden without being triggered. Diba? They have other idiosyncrasy kanang different behavior ba, which is because of their disability. So if you get angry and then insults that person, you will be liable for vilification now. So we may want to orient our friends, our family members about this. You will be imprisoned. So you look at the penalty now. What are the penalties? First violation, gamay lang man, 50,000. Okay ra na, oy, ngay gitag discount 20%. Okay, 50,000 will not exceed 100,000. But then you can be imprisoned. If you do not like where you're living now, or you may want to go to prison, see if it's good there. Okay? 2 years, di ba? 2 years at most at the discretion of the court. That's first violation. If you repeat it, it will become 100,000, not exceeding 200,000, and then you can be imprisoned for not more than 6 years. And mind you, this can be both, fine plus imprisonment at the discretion of the court. And if it relates to businesses that discriminates persons with disability, you can be rip off of your, not rip off. You can be, they can cancel your business permit. You will not be allowed to do business anymore if you violate the provisions of the rights and privileges of PWDs. So there is a need for us to be aware of this again, so that we can help persons with disabilities. We can help the family of persons with disability understand more their situation and what they can do about living with persons with disability. Okay, so this is really the need. That's why our organization, the Rotary Club of Cebu Fente, now together with the Rotary Club of Cebu Guadalupe and the entire District 3860, is advocating for awareness of autism, which is one form of disability. Okay, we should understand what it means. We should understand the behavioral differences of persons with disability. And in the same way, we should be able to understand what are their rights and privileges so that we can demand it for them. So that if we became aware of a certain situations where they were deprived of their rights and privileges, we can advise them that you can actually demand because the law provides for it. Okay? So I hope that you're able to learn much about the rights and privileges of persons with disability today. And at this point, I'm open for your questions. So Tupe here will manage the questions of our participants online. But if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and then tell me your question. I will answer them. If it is within this session, it's for free. After this, I'll start charging. So you better take the opportunity, huh? Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Sa diagnosis. If you go supposedly to a government hospital, you cannot demand because it's not specified that there be free diagnosis. But you can ask a general doctor, and the general doctor can perhaps advise you where you may be assessed. So sadly, that's not a specific benefit under the law that the assessment of a child or the assessment of a person with disability will be free, because our hospitals, government hospitals, do not actually hire a specific specialist for this particular disability. So maybe in the future, there may be a specialist who will be assigned by the government to do the diagnosis. But meanwhile, there's no such benefit. Okay, so I regret to say, no, there's no free diagnosis yet. Okay, at least for now. Okay, but it could be part of our advocacy. However, Yes, ma'am, do you have a question or you want to add something? Pwede mag-assess. Okay. Ma'am Sandra would be the best person to know who are possible specialists that you can consult with.
We are blessed now to have 4 developmental pediatricians. So these are the doctors that will really diagnose children with autism and other disabilities. So we have one, we have Dr. Jacqueline Espina. She is with Chonghua Medical Arts. And we have Myra Altonaga. She's with Cebu Doctors. And then we have a new one. We have Christine Kusi. I do not know where her clinic, but she's new in town. Maya, yeah, she's in Maayu Clinic. And then we have also Dr. Steven Seno. Yeah, before during our time, we had to go to Manila because there were no developmental pediatricians. But now we're very lucky to have them here in Cebu.
Thank you, Ma'am Sandra. Anything else? Do you have questions from our online participants? Inasabtan nila pag maayo, especially ang discount. Okay. Yes. Okay. Mm. Is that allowed? Actually, there's no mention of what type of store. 'Di ba? It's not whether it's a big store, it's a small store, or it's highly capitalized or lowly capitalized. What matters is the type of service they offer. If this is a restaurant, then they are supposed to give a discount regardless of how much they're selling their food for. So, sir, you could have demanded. Now, what is your remedy in that case? You can go to the LGU where the establishment is located and report. Okay? Report that this person is not granting a discount to PWD. Specifically, you go to the city or municipal welfare development office. Okay? That's what you should do. Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay. Regardless of the condition of the fetus, me personally, I'm an advocate for life. So I do not ascribe abortion. Besides, yes, this person may have autism. But as we said a while ago, it's not the end of the world for that child. For as long as there is intervention given on the child can still live a productive life. Good thing is that here in the Philippines, abortion is still not allowed. So if we are to apply that in our jurisdiction, doing that type of a procedure will be considered illegal. Okay? Abortion is still a criminal activity here in the Philippines. But my personal thought of it is that it's rather it's still felonious for me. Huh? I do not advocate for it. I believe that there is always a chance for a child, regardless of what his disability is, to have a better life, to have a better future, only if the people around him or her will work. for the better or for a proper intervention. Okay, and you are really right that only the perfect then can live in this world. But in the first place, who is perfect? Who are we to judge that you can live or not live? Hmm. If nitilaw kag himaya, sana nimo. So better get the consequences of the himaya that you've experienced. Oh. Anything else? Yes, ma'am. Ay, katol, gusto mo siya, then after ikaw lang, ma'am. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Go, go. Is this discount of the PWD related to senior citizen? Yes, the same. Actually, it's the same and the same privileges also. Walay sound, ma'am. So I will just relay the question. So, okay. Okay.
Oh, hello, hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Regarding the Korean restaurants here in Cebu City, almost 80% of these restaurants are not honoring senior discounts and PWD discounts.
Okay.
Can you do something about these Korean restaurants? Can we not tell City Hall about this one?
We should actually report. That's the same as
they're
what.
not honoring senior discounts. Wa mami anak ma'am, wa mami manager. Kusumuta mo City Hall.
Okay.
Because I'm fun of going to Korean restaurants and Japanese restaurants. They're not honoring senior.
Okay. So
Also
that's
PWD, no
okay.
discount.
That's very sad to hear. The law does not distinguish whether what type of food you are serving. And mind you, guys, this Korean restaurants is not necessarily registered under the name of the foreign national, because you know how expensive it is to actually set up a foreign-owned restaurant. Oh, so that may be Filipino-owned based on paper. But regardless, because the law did not distinguish on who owns the establishment, for as long as the establishment is here in the Philippines, they're supposed to grant the discount under the law. Okay? So in that case, there is cause to report them to the LGU where they belong. Okay? They should be reported. Okay. So you can demand. And when you mention to them or when you told them that you should report them to the city hall, what did they say? Okay lang, walang gapoy discount. Wa gapoy discount. So more reason then to report them. Okay? Yes, ma'am, your question.
Yes, good morning to all. No, my concern is just for the parents who has child with with autism like me. Most of the parents like kanang dili jud ingon anang inato ra kanang dili bitaw may walang kaya. They're looking for some institution that will provide therapy or free or just a affordable. Kay most of the time mahal gyud ang therapy for autism, especially the speech therapy. So I just want to ask if there are institutions providing a cheaper or affordable institution that can offer sa atong government.
Okay. So currently, again, the government has not provided this type of therapy for free now. Our organization is working towards getting funding for providing free medical intervention, okay, or therapy to our qualified children with disability. And by qualified, we mean really indigent, really requires help. So our organization is doing that along with Reach Center. However, we are not yet in the stage that we can provide it to everyone. Okay, we are still starting, but you may apply. Okay, and we'll try to find means if we can provide the scholarship, but because we are still on the early stage, it's not really available to a lot of people just yet. But I agree with your sentiment that not everyone actually is privileged to be able to afford the services. But Tita Sandra, would you like to add something about this, or that's it na? That's it lang currently. That's all that we can provide for now. Yes. Yes, yes. No. Mm. Tanang pharmacy gyud ang maghatag og discount. So the excuse that they provided you is not justifiable. Okay? So if wala sila gitagaag discount sa ilang supplier, sana nila nga dito sila nikuha sa supplier. Ngawa ni hatag og discount. Okay. Okay, so pwede yun isumbong sa taga Cebu City kay atbang na daw sa kuan sa Vicente. That's true. Okay, sige. Di lang nato i-publicize. But muna to, na-storya na niya, but mm, mm, yeah, that's true. And you are right. It has to start with someone who's willing to fight for the right of a PWD. And we appreciate the information. So we can refer this to the Cebu City Social Welfare Office. Oh, nagit si Dr. Concha dire. So she will look into this. Akto kayo.
Okay. Gamay ra kay tanong pero daghan na kayo reklamo. But kanang iyong ko murag daghan-daghan na may anig trabahoon. If we do not receive reports, wala may something to act on. So katong mga pharmacy nga inyong na-experience nga dili mo hatag og discount, please give us the name, nya location, nya your complaint. Ana lang. So you could lodge your letter directly to me, even ang sa senior citizen, no, katong restaurant, because we have senior citizen council and the meeting is every Monday. So I think we could tackle that issue nadto. Okay? Then for info lang sa tanan, because it's also the beginning of the year. I was telling Ma'am Sandra, we have actually a budget that's gikan sa national. That's all for the training. So we can program to include all sectors for info about autism for the year round. No? Then for katong services, I think we could talk with the focal of PWD how we can deal with it because we have a program. So we will try to see if we could make some project proposal for the free rehab for some clients. Maybe we could not cover all, but atong tanawon kung unsaon natong prioritize. Okay?
Thank you so much, Doc. Oh. So kung Cebu City lang, diretso na si Doc Concha. Anything else? Oh, sige. I'll take two more questions. The one who raised their hands now.
Kasabang siya sa teacher nga mo eskwela pa man ka nga you are not be able to
That's
watch
public.
out sa time nga quality nga.
Yeah.
It's very very offensive
Offensive.
niya sir nga invite na ay you have a rights to voice out. Then, ni na paano siya nawawan siya ato nga time zone undan siya sa Philippines.
Oh my God. That's a very but that's a very sad kana. That's a very sad circumstance. What should have been done is that the teacher was reported to the principal because that's actually a ground to suspend or to penalize the teacher for what she or he has done, huh? Oh, that's in fact vilification. That's vilification. So I hope that your best friend would still find strength to continue studying. Maybe you can advise him or her about what we've discussed today, that he cannot be or she or he cannot be subject to public ridicule or vilification. And if ever he experienced this, he should be able to report such incident to higher authority. So if it's the teacher who has done that, then he should report it to the principal. And if the principal does not act on it, report it to DepEd. Okay, so that's how it should be done. And then the last lady who raised her hand. Would you be okay if you come here in front and so you can use the microphone?
Hello, good morning po, attorney. My question is, this is speaking po as a family member with autistic
Disorder.
yes. What can we do to encourage training to other family members for the trainings and seminars for these to avail these services? Because of the stigma that autism has, a lot of family members don't really want to help participate, but we all live in the same house. And from a personal take, I want all of us to be able to rotate our responsibilities. What is your take on that po?
Okay. So all that we can actually do is continue the conversation. Okay, continue the dialogue. That's the most that we can do because we cannot force also the person. That will amount to involuntary servitude. So which is a violation of their constitutional rights as well. So you just continue to talk to them. Maybe perhaps after all the information you have provided them, they may be encouraged to help. Okay, but it's a common issue involving family members of persons with disability, especially of children with disability. But based also on what we have experienced from the testimony of the people we have encountered, it all started with that. Them not accepting their family member having disability. But with the constant conversation, constant awareness of the disorder as well as the rights and privileges as well as the means of intervention, slowly they're able to accept. So maybe you can encourage them to join seminars like this. We always publish our webinars, our seminars through social media. If you can check on our social media, what's our social media? RC or Rotary Cebu Fente. He posted on our Facebook page, Rotary Cebu Fente. We have seminars involving autism. You can always encourage your family members to join it. Anyway, it's for free. We don't charge for our seminars. So maybe if they become participants, if they're able to be more aware, then they'll be encouraged to help your family members. Okay. Yes.
Since the third week of January is declared as National Autism Consciousness Week, there are other, the Autism Society of the Philippines is also holding some seminars for free, no webinar. In fact, this afternoon at 1 o'clock until 5, there's another seminar about autism. And for this week, if you will just go to Mr. Google or Dr. Google, you can find a lot of autism inputs, no, or information about this disability. Thank you.
Okay, so that ends my portion and I thank you very much for your time and indulgence. and for your participation. So together, let's continue to fight for the rights and privileges of our persons with disability, more appropriately termed as persons with determination. So thank you.
Okay, so thank you for that wonderful talk and presentation, Attorney Burns, regarding the rights and privileges of our persons with determination. So now we're going to have another speaker this afternoon. I would like to introduce to you, this person is happily married to architect Joseph Michael Espina. They are blessed to have three sons, namely architect Joaquim Michael Espina, architect Christoph Leo Espina, and their special child, Zachary, who loves to swim and listen to music. So here, she took her master's in business management in UP. She was a former bank senior officer. She took her diploma in education at St. Teresa's College. She had her training in TEACH, also known as Treatment and Education of Autistic and Related Communications, Handicapped Children, at University of North Carolina. It is located in Chapel Hills, Virginia, USA, last 2017. She is a member of Rotary Vocational Training Program, and she is the past president of the Autism Society of the Philippines, ASP Cebu chapter, and currently holding the vice president position. She is involved in the maternal literacy and basic education projects of Rotary Club Cebu Fuente for the past 28 years. Currently, she is our school program directress in Reach Center. And may I ask you to give her a round of applause? Let us all welcome Mom Sandra Espina.
Thank you, Teacher Van, for that generous introduction. And I really appreciate when I'm introduced as a mother of a special child. So I am a mother of a special child. His name is Zach. He is 24 years old and is 5'9" tall. He is the love of our family and he is nonverbal. So today, why are we here today gathered for this seminar? For the main reason, no, because we want to know more about what autism spectrum disorder is really all about. Secondly, it's the third week. It's the third week of January, and it has been declared. There's a proclamation number 711 that every third week of January is declared as the National Autism Awareness Consciousness Week. So the focal agencies that are mandated to have activities for autism are the Department of Health, DepEd, we have also the SWD, the SWS, and as well as the DILG. Secondly, why did this Autism Consciousness Week came about? It's because of the increasing number of Filipinos having autism. It has been known that if we have 1% of our population consists of persons with autism. So in the Philippines, if we are 110 million, if I'm not mistaken, is that right? In population, 1% of that is 1.1 million persons with autism. Now, from this number, only 50% are identified. Why? Why do you think are they identified? Because of the PWD cards, no? The rest of the 50% are just roaming around our community. Probably dysfunctional or having no intervention at all. So they do not become productive members of our society. Now, from this 50%, only 30% are having the early intervention. No? So from this 30%, only 10% are very serious in their early intervention. So you see, we as civil servants, no, we call ourselves now as civil servants because we should partake, no, in identifying these persons, our Filipino brothers or sisters having this disability. We should identify them and encourage them to have this early intervention so that they will have a more functional life in the end. So understanding autism leads to early intervention and a better life for these persons with autism. So I hope you understand our significance here today. No, especially if there are um, um, employees from the government and other local agencies. So I would like also to recognize the support of the Rotary Club of Guadalupe, headed by no other than the President, Dr. Esther Concha, also the Department of Head of DS WS, and their members are here also. And I would like also to recognize the Rotary Club of Cebu Fuente, who has espoused uh, most of our autism advocacy in the district. It has been, I think, 28 years that I have been involved in this advocacy. And we are very pleased that we have a lineup of speakers also, no other than, as you have heard, Attorney Burns, who has been very supportive to this ability of autism and to the other abilities as well, disabilities as well. So to start with, today I will give you an overview of autism. But before I give you the overview of autism, let us understand what autism spectrum disorder is really all about. So what is autism? Autism spectrum disorder is a pervasive or lifelong neurodevelopmental disability. So the person with this disability usually is deficient in three aspects. And these three aspects are known as the triad of impairments. And these are, they are able to communicate properly because of their deficit. They're unable to socialize or interact with their friends, families, and the community because of this deficit also. And they have a set of behavior that is restrictive and repetitive. Now, autism spectrum disorder is a spectrum condition that affects the person's ability to cope up with different types of situation in the environment. And when you say a spectrum, it is a broad range, so it may come from a low functioning, mid, and high functioning. So for the high functioning, we have the Asperger's and we have also the savant. And for the low functioning, they are more domesticated or they are more indulged in activities of daily living. For those in the mid, they are likely to have vocational skills training. So there's really a future for all of these persons with disability under the autism spectrum. So katong question ganihan, the dimension na I think only the good ones will excel or supposed to live in this world. I don't think so. I would agree to that because with the proper intervention, they become functional in life. So now let us go to the common signs and symptoms of autism. They have poor speech or lack of speech. So with poor speech, some of them are nonverbal, some are verbal or able to speak in the sense that they will just copy the words that they usually hear in their family or in the community or with their friends. But it is not really a communication that is really in depth. So their expressive language is deficit as well as their receptive language. Expressive is when you express your thoughts, no, you counteract some other thoughts, no, or you appreciate other thoughts. They're not unable to do this. As well as the receptive, lisod sad nila ang pag-receive sa information. It takes time for them to process. So that is why if we have an activity in the center, I'm involved with Responsive Education for Autistic Children Center. We usually have a breakdown of their activities, or what we call the task analysis. No, it's broken down so that they'll be able to understand how to go about with activity, because they are deficit in their speech. No, they cannot ask. So that is why visual, they become also intend to become visual learners in the end. So they have difficulty with changes in routine. They really want things to be constant. No, they want to be things that are done every day in the same manner. So they want something that is routine. And if there are changes, mo nagtawag na to sa no, rigid na kaining batana. Di na gyud mo mutuo kung dili kani mo'y buhaton kada adlaw. They become rigid. So I had an experience with this with one of our parent in the center, and she approached me ni siya, Ma'am Sandra, karong adlaw, labad kay kung kay kani akong anak. They take the route no from Redemptorist going to Juan Osmeña to reach center. And there was this sinkhole. Remember, there was this sinkhole in National Bookstore. So na-close na ang road din ha. And then the child started to cry, started to tap his father and kick him even while driving. Yan niingon, wa kunin mo dada sa reach center, ning kliko ka og lain, diri pa dong sa tuo, ning wa ka, ning niko ka. So, you know, this is rigidity, no? So that is why they are very, they have a hard time coping up with changes in their daily schedule. So inappropriate laughing or crying. Sometimes we see this children with autism or persons on the autism spectrum laughing or crying without no reason. But I think we can relate. Kung maingon ko nimo, kinumdo mo sa joke ni Jokoy, ang uban mukalit og katawa. Ay kasi last December pag ingon ako katubang joke ni Jokoy, ni kalit na siya katawag maayo. Iko ay sa katawa. Okay, sige na mag siya katawa niya, nagluha-luha na siya maayo because he can recall the jokes of Jokoy. Di ba Jokoy is a Filipino comedian? Daghan kayo jokes about Vicks Vapor Rub. If you know this, I think if you go to Netflix, you will have a good time with Jokoy. Magsige mo katawa. I can see my husband now, oh. I just mentioned the name of Jokoy. Wana, nagkatawa na siya, oh. So, nasa ni inability to relate to children and other adults. They have difficulty with social skills. No, they are unable to relate or to even give social greetings to their friends. So if you recognize, if you attend children's parties in Jollibee or McDo, you may find some children that are probably doing their own play, or they are isolating themselves from the parlor games that usually the parlor coordinator would do. No, instead of joining these games, they would line up all the spoon and forks of Jollibee, no, or McDo instead of joining the parlor games. Unlike nato kung ino tag parlor games, we're ma-excited ta, di ba? And then I prizes, no? But with them, they are low affect. What good? No, they do not find significance in this one. So lack of awareness of danger. So this
Nagawas na po ko diretso.
autism
May sulod.
usually they do
Saan ako resibo sa
all about. So even kaning pag-cross sa street, they feel that everybody is a friend. No? So muhunong ng auto ko mo. So they are really vulnerable to danger. So and even bullying. So that is why with this kind of signs and symptoms, if you see a child on the street and then mukalit lang og labang, probably you can say, oops, PWD probably kaning batana. So we have oversensitive or undersensitive to sounds. So like the microphone that I'm using right now, is it okay with you? The volume? Yes. But to children with autism, this is already like the sound of the probably a big kanaging amplifier na during discos na grabe na gyud kay sa tanan. And then also the aircon right now. Can you hear it? Is it okay with you? Yes, it's okay with you. But with children with autism, this is already a very irritating sound to them as taning electric fan. Especially with the electric fan, they find it's like a propeller of the airplane already. So ang reaction nila ani is to, what do children with autism usually react if they hear this shrill sound or something that really annoys them? Sir, they would cover their ears, they start to jump, they start to run around, hoping that they would veer away from the sound. Na mawa ba? No, kumudagan ko or muamba ko, nya akong siradan ang akong dunggan sa akong kakamot, mawa ning kaning sabaa. But wa, no? So that is why this is very annoying to them. So they become oversensitive. Autism is also a sensorial issue. Do you know the 5 senses? Can you make mention to me the first sense? Sense of sight, sense of smell, sense of taste, sense of hearing, sense of touch. So na ano? So we have sense of sight, auditory, and then olfactory, no? Gustatory, and then there's 2 more. Anybody? 2 more from the teachers of Reach Center. Vestibular and proprioceptives, no? So there are 2 more DI. This came from our licensed clinical instructor, no, our occupational therapist. We usually have seminars also in the center, and they made mention to us that there are 2 more senses. So sa proprioceptives, the input comes from the joints and muscles, no, about the changes of movement in space. So parehaan na, no, kung naglakaw ta unya nay hagdanan, the next input, no, that we're going to put in our mind na naay hagdanan, I have to raise the muscles of my leg padung sa hagdanan. So mo anay more or less that's how the proprioceptive works, no? And then the vestibular are coming from the inner ears, no? Putting an input about balance, no? So mauna siya, that's an additional. With these senses, deficits ang atong mga children with autism. The one that really handles or specialists on this sensorial issues are the occupational therapists. So that is why I'm mentioning Reach Center, Magod, no, because the Rotary Club of Cebu Fuente is in tandem with Reach Center because this is their pet project, no, in the year 2001 pa. So that is why most of our indigent scholars are with Reach Center. So kani sila, in the center, we have a multidisciplinary team. So we have licensed occupational therapist. We have licensed special education teachers. We have behaviorist, no, and we have also an on-call lang na kanang speech pathologist. So we usually have a monthly training, no, from the licensed occupational therapist on the sensorial issues of the children with autism. So the next slide. So regarding hyperactivity or passiveness, I'm really looking to my notes because I really refer this to the specialist, no? So with regards to hyperactivity, this is observed when the child is overly active or for a period of time and has difficulty in attending and concentrating in a task. So usually when you see them, they run around, they have difficulty in remaining seated for a certain activity. I remember when we have new child that is being endorsed by the child developmental pediatrician to the center, we usually have an assessment with them. Makakita gyud mi ani mga hyperactive na child, no? When they are being brought by the parents to the center, mukalit og dagan, mukalit og ambak, and then mukat-kat. Pagkahuman, makakita sa mga educational toys, pangwaon tanan, no? It's very well displayed and arranged in a cabinet. Pangwaon tanan, unya ibutang sa floor. And then they start to squat, they start to run. Murag wagyoy oras na murag mahunong, no? They have all the energy in the world. So ingo de ang papa ug mam, pastilan jud ning anak ka. No? Di gyud mahunong ang kakiat, ano? They mention kakiat, no? So usually the occupational therapist would give a treatment to them, and this is giving them heavy workload, no? Like weighted objects given to them and shifting on a vestibular ball. If you know a vestibular ball, they are being they're asked to sit in that vestibular ball, no? More likely. And then this is performed on in trances, no? Depending on the time element that the occupational therapist would require. So passiveness is like also hyposensitive. So they do not have this motivation or the mood, no, to be interested in that certain activity. So usually they usually stay in the place, or they are just seated and they are quiet, no? It's like they have a world of their own. They do not mind the other children are laughing, enjoying the game. They are just seated there, very passive, no? So usually what we do is we really give activities that is alerting, so that more or less they come to their senses of doing play and putting their energy into this one. So in upper plate, playing with toys. During assessment also, we give these children different educational toys. And one of them is a toy car, no, for boys. What we notice is instead of playing with these toy cars na ipalumba-lumba, unsaon Manila. Oh, sakto ka, ma'am, no? So they usually turn the car around and then they would play the wheels, no? Oh, so murag Muingon ka kung sa uban pa ka weird anang bata-ana oy nano di inana man nagduwa. Sa uban pa is paligiron unya maglumba-lumba. No, so there's inappropriate playing. We have also this for the girls we gave them this toy dolls, no. So bisan kita no magingta magduwa-duwa tag daldal, di ba? Murag daan na tay daghan ideas on mind. Sige kani siya si sister nako kani siya na toy doll na usa akong kasin, di ba? Daghan na kay tag makuan niya magluto-luto ta. Pero ang dibuhat atong bat-ana during assessment, di palinya niya ang tanan dolls. So you see, they have a different way, no, in understanding what play is really all about. So strange attachment to objects. This is what we call obsession. So I think kita sad as individuals, nasa our own obsessions, no? So ang uban kanang dili kalakaw kung why handkerchief, dili kalakaw kung wa ilang necklace, di ba? Ang uban dili kalakaw kung why watch. No? So naay obsessions sa mga tao, just like these children with autism, they have obsessions, but kuan kaayo, very rigid sad kaayo ang ilang obsession. I experienced riding with the son of Karen Davila, you know Karen Davila, David. I had a chance to bring them to the airport after our advocacy sa breast cancer. I think it was really planned out by one of the Rotarians that I'll be the one to bring them to the airport so that I'll be able to talk to Karen Davila and his kid. The obsession of David, the name of Karen Davila's son is David, is this kaning Coca-Cola in cans. So why sud no? But he likes to hear the sound every time he touches the can, no? Oo. So he cannot let go of it. Kwaon ni sa iyang mommy na Karen, di gyud niya i-let go ang can because he likes probably the sound when he crunches it, no? Or the feel of the can. So there are strange attachment to the object, to an object. Sa akong son sad, he has this obsession to stackable cups or plastic cups. And then he would juggle it from his left hand to the right hand in equal spaces and proportion. And then we tried to mimic him. Mahug mangyud na mo. Pero niya, very perfectly kuanjud ang spaces, no? And it doesn't fall apart. And he doesn't look at it pagyud. So you see, there are probably some splinter skills, what we call. No, so probably that is iyang vocational skills madugay, no? Maka-appeal tani siya sa circus. We would make fun of that incident. So no eye contact. This is very predominant in most of the children with autism. They do not look at you when you converse to them. So like now, when I converse to you, I look at you and we have a joint attention when we look at the screen. No? So with the children of autism, they are deficit in this one. We had a high functioning kid in the center and I asked him, why don't you look at me when you talk? And he said, you know, Tita Sandra, it's so difficult. Iko, why is it difficult to look at me? Iko, because I'm not pretty siya. No, it's not that. It's because when I look at you, it's like a very tall building in front of me and that you are very near my nose already. So that is why I veer away from looking at you. So my son also do not look at me when I would converse to him. He would squint when I would communicate with him, no, or peripheral vision. But when I tell him, Zach, look at mom, then he would look at me in a splitting second. But now, with the intervention that we have in the center, he can look longer now at me when I talk to him and also to the teachers. So we have also oversensitive or undersensitive to touch. Remember the sense of touch. That is one of their sensory issues also. So oversensitive to touch. When you touch them very lightly, like a feather, sus para nila, they're giggling so much when it's from head to toe na imong pag-touch nila. No? So there are also some na when you touch them, wa ra gyud para nila. So there are undersensitive. So those undersensitive, sometimes you see them head banging and then pinching on themselves. Nya usahay makakita ka na there are bruises already because they do not feel that one. They're seeking for a certain sensation. Unya, despite what they're doing, they do not feel it. No? Oo. So that is undersensitive to touch. So ang oversensitive sad is they're very sensitive to the five senses or to the seven senses. So when you bring these children to the mall, because malling now is a way of life, di ba? Atong dadon atong mga bata kay daghan kaayong mga programs in the mall that is really of pleasure and leisure to the family. But don't you know that when you bring them to the mall, you are really exposing to them an environment that is not familiar to them. I have seen this video when she entered the special child, no? When she entered the mall, dina pa siya sa pultahan. She can hear the coffee shop, which is about five doors away from the main entrance. Sa coffee shop, what is inside the coffee shop? The brewing of the coffee. She can hear that from that distance. She can hear the cashier's registry kanang sa kuan gali na tiring, and then pagkahuman ang kanang mga coins and bills, and then the chattering of the customers. And then makadungog pag siya sa kitchen na naay nanghugas sa plato and the glasses banging at the sink, no? And then nakadungog siya anang people selling, no, different items and then talking. And then sa other shop, he was able to hear also a lady who was just sitting down and tapping on his pen. All of this in one moment. Can you imagine that? Kita, we don't, di ba? We take it one step at a time. But with them, everything comes in that second and one moment. So they are very oversensitive. So that is why when you bring these children with autism to the center, it should be with gradual exposure. Itawag na to og desensitization, no? So little hinay-hinay og expose. Dili kay kaliton kay that is why you see them magtantrums na noon in the mall, no? Mukalit og hilak, yaka, budagandagan. Not knowing kita di ay mo'y nag-trigger nila to act in that manner. So that is why I'm very active in the advocacy of in the malls, no? So this is also through Autism Society in the Philippines. And this was really spearheaded also way back in 2005 by Heidi Fajardo, one of our parent in the center. So way back then, she also experienced a certain encounter in the center, in the mall. Ako sad, I have encountered also an experience. I brought my son to this one of these leisure rides in the mall. I won't make mention of that kuan ng establishment. My son was already riding in this merry-go-round na kanang seat, no, because he likes that one. And then I was just, I think, a meter away to buy another token because nahurot man ang token. And then when I turned back, I saw my son was reprimanded by the guard. In fact, he was being pulled out from that horse ride, no, and told to stay out from that, di ba, murag na aman cage ang kanang mga rides. So I felt so bad. No, I felt so bad. I saw my son laughing and really enjoying the ride, and then another person pulling him away from that happiness. You as a parent, how would you feel? Devastated indeed. So I told myself, this cannot be, and this should not happen to the friends of my children. I will advocate. I will go to the malls and let them understand that persons with disability, especially with children with autism, they have the right for this leisure, and they should be respected because there are clients of the mall also. So that is why I really advocate to Shoemart, no? So moingon gyud ng Shoemart na Ma'am Sans. Can you please advocate to our frontliners, mga security guards, mga unsay tawag aning frontliners in their department stores and their mga tenants? I am more than willing. Ingnon pa ko nila, pwede ka makaatos SM Consolacion at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm from Cebu City. No case, I will go. Because I don't want this to happen to the friends of my child with autism. So I believe if there are parents here, you understand how I feel, no? So now let's go to the myths and facts. Autism can be cured? Yes or no? Uy, na naman yung answer. It cannot be cured, no? Autism is a pervasive or a lifelong disability. So even before childbirth, no, autism is already there. So, but it cannot be cured, but it is treatable. When you say cured, pareha nang nabdantag o mutumarta o tambal na paracetamol haron mawa, di ba? Pero sa autism, di man ingno na mo inong kag tambal ugma mawawa na koy autism, no? Because it is pervasive, it is lifelong. But it is treatable. Treatable with therapy. So there are a lot of therapy that your children can indulge with, no? So if they are deficit in one aspect or the other, mahibawan man na, because your child developmental pediatrician, no, will tell you during the diagnosis what therapy to take, no. So there are sa spectrum there are no two persons alike in their diagnosis, no, because it's a spectrum. That is why we respect also the diagnosis of our developmental pediatrician. Ang uban ng animang parents, they shop around, no, for diagnosis. Usahay malibog na sila because probably in the denial stage na dili lagi tinali na mangita taglain opinion. But when you see these signs and symptoms from your child, no, 5 out of, let's say 8, no, 3 out of 8 or 5 out of 8 mao na gyud ni, no. Do not delay. Your child is just waiting. Kamo may nag-delay sa intervention if you do not accept. Acceptance is really the key to the early intervention of your child also. So autism is caused by vaccines. Is that true? Dubious. No, because that is not true. In 1998, they made mention that there was a high mercury content in the vaccine, and they made mention sometime in 1998. That was also the time when my son was born. So kami said, tinali because of the vaccines. But that was not true. No? Kids with autism are good at math and memorization. So only 10% of the people with autism display advanced skills, advanced level of a particular skill. Right now, because of the intervention, no, and there are a lot of remedies and therapies and special centers now, I think 10% is even in the minimum. So they have even outlived that number. Some are really very functional. In fact, no, with the proper intervention, we have also one parent here I'm very proud of, because his son has really gone into mainstreaming. And then after mainstreaming, he is into culinary arts. No? So I'm very proud that the mommy is here right now, no, still advocating for his son, even his son is already in that situation, a very independent and has graduated, no, and has become a chef. Is it all right, mommy, if I mention your name and be recognized in the group for a very supportive mother to his son Kino? Please take a stand, Mommy Aina Ubahib. Yeah. So in the earlier years also, we were also together with Mommy Aina in the center, no? Oo. Okay. So for those with having the early intervention, and because in the spectrum, some of there are in the mid of the spectrum or in the high functioning in the spectrum or Asperger's or savant, they are really being recognized by society. So even this guy, Stephen Wiltshire, he's a British guy. In fact, he is an architect, and he is a very good, he's a visionary, no, and a visual learner. Di pasakay ni siya og helicopter to see the landscape of the city. And then when they landed, he started to say tawag ana draw, and then draw the sites that he was able to see. And then when the city planners saw what he made, perfect, no, the I think the buildings, the location were really in the right place and position. So mo ni siya, no, naa siya savant skills. And then they say also Albert Einstein, no, the theory of relativity, and he's a scientist and mathematician. Kung wa na siya, I think we are also in despair with regards to the theory of relativity. And then there's also Stephen Jobs. He is the charismatic pioneer of the computer era, the CEO of the Apple, no? Yeah. So I have also a very comedian that I follow through, si Robin Williams. You know Robin Williams, yeah. He really accepted, no, that he was a person with autism. So next. So early detection of autism. So to make a review lang, no, doesn't look at people's face, not interested in social games, happy to be left alone, poor response to own name, doesn't like to be touched, no eye contact, doesn't respond to gesture and hand leading. Hand leading is one way for them to communicate their physiological needs, no? Since they are poor in speech or in language, they do hand leading or top approach request so that they'll be able to suffice their physiological needs. So parents, and then if there are also social workers here, if you find this, signs and symptoms, they say 5 out of 2, 4, 6, 8. 5 out of 8, then more likely he has autism. Please refer them to your barangay doctors or to the nearest public hospitals, no, because they have also pediatricians there. The pediatricians can really diagnose them and refer them to the specialist. The specialist of this autism spectrum disorder are really child developmental pediatricians or doctors, no. So if you see, they say now 3 out of 8 imong anak na ang nag-autism, no. Okay. So what are the causes of autism? So maybe the environment. They say because when you go out from City Hall, there are a lot of cars nowadays emitting pollutants, no? Diesel in the air, and then chemicals from into the air, no? And then there's also noise pollution. Perhaps diets or allergies. Anad na kaita in 3-in-1, no? Na mga food, and then we go to the nearest nearest Jollibee and McDo. And then maybe it's also genetic predisposition. The problem is we do not know the cause. No? So until now, they are still researching on what is really the cause of autism. So the future placement. So there's a future for children with autism, whether in the low functioning aspect, mid or high functioning. For the high functioning, they can go mainstreaming. They can go to regular schools. They have this domestic or residential and vocational skills environment. For the mainstreaming, educating children with autism, they usually call it now persons on the spectrum, no, on the autism spectrum, in a regular classes during specific time period based on their skills. What is the preparation for this? No, they should have a good social skills. They should have high esteem and higher academic achievement. No, because for those parents who came back to the center, they said they had a difficulty because their child was being bullied in school. No? Okay. So factors to consider for mainstream, choose the right school, the right teacher, the right classroom environment, and the right friends. And I guess Mami Aina did all of this, no? Because Chef Kino now has achieved that culinary arts diploma. So for those who are in the mid only, they are more indulged in the domestic and residential activities, developing appropriate domestic skills like hygiene, shopping, transportation, laundry, bed making, cooking, money management actions, and productive and safety activities. So money skills, we teach them about money so that they'll be able to purchase and go to the groceries for their basic needs. And if they do not understand the pattern of purchasing groceries, then we do task analysis. Vocational training. For those in the mid of the spectrum, we would encourage, and the teachers would usually give them vocational skills training. This is one way to help your child develop unbankable skills. So examples are painting. I remember during one of our ASP exhibit, we had a parent who had 2 kids with autism. They were very good in painting, and then they were able to sell their painting artworks. No, we had also a child in the center was very good in gardening, so it became his means of living. So some of our children are also being taught how to make waffles and then mga pinaypay na saging, and then they sell it to their classmates, to the parents and to the guardians. Some are also very good in computers, so na encoding, carpentry, and greeters. For those, some are now hiring greeters for their shops in the malls. Assembly line also. I remember this assembly line in Japan. I had this relative in siya. I was invited to see the assembly line in one of the kaning computer chips in Japan. And then the supervisor told me, watch them when it's already 3 o'clock. So it was about 2 minutes before 3 o'clock. By 3 o'clock, what happened? Any idea? Yes. They all stood up and flopped. Nag-flopping. No? So they were really hired. Children with autism were hired by this Japanese electronic computer chip company for assembly line, putting the chips inside the plastic. No, very redundant type of activity in the assembly line, but they did it perfectly. So for regular employees di kuno magdugay kay redundant kaayo kanang pulan ba, but with these children with autism, perfect. Masuod kuno sa plastic dili hiwi, sealed pag yun kuno kaayo. But at 3 o'clock, give them that respite. No, it's their free time at 3 o'clock. They can start to flop, run around, and then have their snacks. So they do painting. These are some of our children in the center. No, so they cook and sell what they're cooking. And then they do gardening and they sell some of their garden plants. And then some also are very good in encoding. So this is the assembly line. And then we have some kids also selling their pastries. Employment for PWA, it was mentioned by Attorney Burns that 1%, it's not anymore 5%. I know 1% of the casual, emergency, and contractual positions in all government agencies are engaged in the development for the reserved for this position for the PWDs or persons with determination. So I think that ends my topic for this morning, but let me share with you a video from Rico Hizon. You know Rico Hizon from CNN Philippines. This was one of the interviews he had for Autism Consciousness Week last Wednesday.
An estimated 1 in 100 children in the world have autism, and yet there are still a number of misconceptions about the disorder. We debunked some of them this Autism Consciousness Week with developmental pediatrician Dr. Florita de la Cruz. Doc, thank you so much for joining us. Please explain to us autism as a spectrum.
Yes, thank you, Sir Rico, for the invitation. Good evening, everyone. The word autism itself comes from the Greek word autos, which means self, and it describes conditions in which a person is removed from social interaction. In other words, he becomes an isolated self. And autism is diagnosed on a spectrum, meaning no two people are the same. Every person with autism spectrum disorder is unique because each person can have a different age of onset or detection or diagnosis, which means not only young children can be diagnosed with autism, but adolescents and adults as well.
But Doc, what are the main symptoms of autism?
Yes, we have the different core symptoms of autism based on the DSM-5 criteria. The way we diagnose them, there should be persistent deficits in social communication and social interaction. For example, Sir Rico, for younger kids, this can be in a form of inconsistent eye contact, limited or absent responsive smiling. The joint attention also can be lacking. But for older kids with higher abilities, it can be in the terms of difficulty establishing interpersonal relationships. Sometimes they also have unusual tone of speech or presented as one-sided conversation. Another one of the core symptom would be the presence of restricted or repetitive patterns of behavior, interest or activities. This may be fixed pattern or insistence of sameness. So again, for younger kids, this can be presented as stereotype repetitive movements like hand flapping, finger flicking, body rocking, body spinning. We also have repetitive speech, and we also have unusual sensory interest. This can be in a form of atypical visual inspection, lateral eye gazing, and what we call hyperreactivity or hyporeactivity to stimuli.
And what is the earliest age for a child, Doc? Can autism be diagnosed?
Yes, Sir Rico, very important question. Usually, autism, the signs and symptoms, this is considered under neurodevelopmental disorder. It can be seen early childhood. Most of the time before entrance to grade school. As early as 6 months, you can already see the red flags for autism.
And what are the common misconceptions, Doc, about autism?
Yes, we have a lot of misconceptions. Let me begin with the vaccine-related issue, Sir Rico. In 1998, a vaccine was associated with development of autism, but fortunately it was debunked already. Probably it's because the signs and symptoms, the peak of the signs and symptoms, the recognition would coincide with the date of administration of that certain vaccine. So it's not true. It's a myth.
And basically, Doc, how important is it knowing the needs of someone with autism? And the importance of support groups?
Yes, it is very important for us to acknowledge the needs of individuals with autism for us to be able to provide the appropriate support that they need. Autism affects people differently, with some individuals being able to live independently, while others will need very intensive support. You know, living with autism can be very daunting for families and with all the difficulties and challenges that it entails. So support groups will enable parents, not only the individual with autism, to share information with one another. And families need a good network of support. And this may allow the parents to vent also their frustration, to share their different milestones. And these groups, no, it is through these groups that parents can get to hear about training workshops, school services, as well as attend events that may be beneficial, including social outings or social inclusion.
And Doc, finally, as we celebrate Autism Consciousness Week, how important is it to raise awareness on this neurological disorder?
Yes. For me, when public awareness is strong, individuals will be more well-informed on symptoms. And earliest age of diagnosis, interventions or therapies that will be useful may be of maximum importance in order to develop the potentials of individuals with autism. Greater awareness would lead to better understanding, not only for autism spectrum, but also to rest of the neurodevelopmental disorders.
And we also have to, of course, raise this issue that despite their condition, people with autism can still be productive and contribute to society.
Yes, that's true.
Thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word, neurodevelopmental pediatrician Dr. Florita de la Cruz. And you can get more health tips on MedTalk Health Talk, hosted by Dr. Freddy Gomez, airing weekdays at 3:30 in the afternoon.
We would like to give you also a testimony from a parent. No, we have an indigent parents because we cater to indigent children also in the center. So we have one short testimony from a parent.
Mama ni Rafael Rich Pimontes, ug kauban ako iyahang kuya
Josh Pimontes.
Naghimo mi og video karon para among isulti unsay nahitabo ni RR sa wala pa siya na nakasulod sa Rich Learning Center. Sa una mang god si RR lisod jud kayo siya i-handle. Dili kay siya makigdula, makimutanaw sa mata. O nya. Dili siya gyud ka istorya.
O magpatubakong sa likod.
Kato nga time nga na nakasulod na siya sa Rich, dako jud kayong kausaban niya kay sa karon kantigo na siya mo gunit sa pinsel. Sa una di na siya kantigo na siya mo gunit sa pinsel, makigdula na siya, kantigo na siya.
Dili pa kay magdula may ara kay magbalik ko dulang kay yabuakon.
Nya karon kantigo na siya mo point sa mga pictures like mga
piso
sa mga animals, di ba, sa iyang head makahibalo na siya makahibalo na siya sa mga kuan sa mga parts, pero di pa gid siya ka istorya, pero nanagid siya murag words, pero hopefully paabot lang gid mi ana nga mahitabo na nga makaistorya siya, di ba kuya? Nya karon nalipay gid mi maayong sa gibuhat sa Rich kang RR kay dako jud kayong tabang sa amua, especially nga scholar pud si RR. Daghan kaayong salamat Rich ug sa ihang sponsor sa pagtabang sa amua ug kang RR. Kapag thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich Center.
Thank you, Rich Finster
Center.
Center.
Sa pag-help ni RR.
Pag-help po RR.
Thank you. Thank you sa teachers nga nagtabang pud sa kang RR sa pagtudlo hinaot nga magpadayon ang Rich. Magpadayon ang Rich o andam mutabang sa mga nanginahanglan, especially sa mga
Dahil ako kasmi di mo masaba-saba dayon.
especially sa mga bata nga naay special needs. Daghang salamat Rich sa pag-accommodate kang RR o pag help sa mga bata nga naay special needs. Daghang salamat. Maayong gabi. Bye-bye na kaya.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very cute kayo yung brother, no? So we also train the parents in the center, not only the child with autism, because that is really the mission and vision of the center. This is really espoused by Architect Espina. We are just the ones doing the legwork for the foundation. So we train the parents as well as the siblings of the children with autism, so that now question ganyan, no, about family. So everybody should be educated on what to do with their special child, which is a member of their family. Now we will reserve the Q&A. We will proceed with the next speaker, no, so that we can, because we have a very limited time. So please introduce her properly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ma'am Sandra, for that wonderful talk. I hope everybody was able to have important input on the talk that Ma'am Sandra gave. It was all great awareness for everyone. So now, for the last topic for this morning, it's about behavior management. So here, for our third speaker, she is a psychology graduate, a licensed teacher, a masterand in special education, and most of all, a registered behavior technician. Let us give the floor to Teacher Sok. Let's give her a round of applause.
Good morning. I know we have limited time, so I'm just going to make this very short. I know that you're already at this time hungry and agitated, or I don't know. So dili na kayo relax. So would you be able to give me a thumbs up if your energy is still high? Kana murag ganahan sa tanada. So most of you are still in tune with us. So this morning we're going to talk about basic yet very significant information about behavior. Yes, thank you, Teacher Van, for introducing very concise and brief. So I am one of the teachers in REACH. I used to teach sometime in 2006, and then I came back here after I had my degree in other country. I will not just mention, so where I took my RBT. It's affiliated with the Institute of Technology in Florida. So since I started with REACH, I really focused on the aspects of autism with behavior, because I am very amazed. I know that it's very dynamic, and then it really is a challenge for me. And then when I came back in the Philippines, balik ko sa REACH, because my root came from there, really. Because all the trainings that I had when I was in REACH, when I went to another country, it really for me, it was a good training ground. It really confirmed that I was really trained well when I was in REACH, because all the information, all the trainings, all the experiences that I had is really in tune with the course that I was taking there. So, mo gina siya akong kuha na pag ingon ni Sir Yumi na, would you like to see the new REACH centers? Pag ana gina ko, I didn't really have any second thoughts. Ni grab ko maski wala mi nagisgot og sweldo. So, they can attest to that. So it's not all about money, but ang ako lang gid is I was really amazed with the good, because nga no, behavior management here in the Philippines, especially here in Cebu, is not a given big significance yet. Because I don't blame, kaya di ba ang mga developmental pediatrician, when they diagnose, they will always go to OT, go to speech. But how can we teach the child if we don't yet are able to manage the behavior? Like for example, the stereotypy. We know that, I presume everyone have seen a person or a child with autism. Yes, so thumbs up, good. So nakainomdom pa si sir na he has to give thumbs up to give confirmation. So sorry. So there's stereotypy. As Attorney Burns, I know he's very knowledgeable about autism. I was amazed kay maski attorney siya, kay bawo siya, daghan ko siya na ibawaan. So pag ingon niya na we look all the same, the next person to your left or to your right, physically wala jud siya defect, but there are stereotypic behavior. So kana siya mo qualify ang repetitive and rigidity. Why is it a concern for us? Because if they are flapping, if they are spinning, it impedes the learning experience. Di ba kung tudluan mo ang bata, mo kalit lagwan. So there is really a great concern. But here, for the behavior of that, management of those stereotypic behaviors, there is a center, sa Reach Center, we have trained teachers, because these behaviors cannot just be stopped. Nga inon nimo, huy, hunong diha ayo pag inana kay dili ka kakakon. So we cannot say that. So, but before moving forward, we have to define first behavior. Unsa man gyud dining behavior? So anyone na maka-share? I know gigutom na mo diha. So behavior. So behavior is anything that an individual does. So kung living organism or individual. So kung kita, buhi ta, anything that we do is considered behavior. So maski mag-ana kasi mong buhok or mag-ana kasi mong mata, it's behavior. You will know why later. So behavior is anything. So kanang maglingkod ka, mudagan ka, you'll play basketball or grabbing a certain toy from another person, it's behavior. So muna na atong notion behavior, mo gina atong kwan, it's a definition, it's anything that you do is behavior. Kaya naamgo tayo madunggan, nag-behavior akong anak. Ang ilang connotation sa behavior is bad behavior. But behavior is positive o negative behavior. So i-consider po na nato siya. Okay. So when we are happy, normally, typically, unsa man inyong manifestation, unsa may topographical behavior nimong i-manifest. You smile, you laugh, di ba, musyagit ka, uy, hooray, or yes, or boisterous laughter. So, lain-lain sad ta. Even the kids with autism, though they belong to the spectrum, as what has been repeated this morning, walay duha ka bata with autism na pareha. So mo na sa center, makadungog mig parents na they keep on comparing. Paspas lagi kay imong anak, nakastorya na lagi si kuan. So there is really no reason or no point of comparison. Kay each of them is different. And then when you're happy, so you experience or you manifest those kind of behavior. But for children with autism, they express themselves differently. So naiuban, when they're happy, mukalit lagdagan, so may buong na lang ni barog naman, ni dagan na dito, or they flap their hands, or they spin themselves around. And then when they're frustrated, so I think you have seen your kids bite their nails, or bite their fingers, or bite their thumbs, or bite other people. So they inflict pain to others, or they grab the hair of other people. Kaya nga naman, why do they do these things? Because these are just some reasons. We will talk about all other reasons later on. So it could be, di man siya kay musulti. So they're deficient in communication skills. So like for example, kung kita una kay tastanan, mapuggan pa man nato and then go tag CR later on. But for them, if they are hungry and if they want to urinate, dili man sila ka-express. So they express in a different manner. So that's their way of communication. I-grab ba ka, patiran ba ka, paakon ba ka, or muhilak sila. And then, as what Ma'am Sandra mentioned, resistance to change. Change is not their cup of tea. So it has to be, especially for the kids who are starting intervention, we have to establish routine. So kinahanglan, mao gina siya. And later on, maybe ikuan lang, divert gamay, ginagmay to make him more flexible. But it takes time. So resistance to change is also one of these things that make them communicate the way they communicate depending on their level of or their skills. Kaya na mga bata na in the center man good, we have wide variety of kids. Those kids can communicate. There are also kids nga zero gid ang communication. So we have different interventions to different levels of skills for the kids that we have in the center. And then for us, typical neurotypical individuals, we learn things naturally. So di na kita kinahanglan tuduan nga kanang init na tubig dili na nato hikapon kay mapaso ta. So for them, it doesn't work like that. So these behaviors have functions. Ilan ang gibuhat tungod kay naay rason. So as I have said, there are basic lang yun ako ikuan ninyo about behavior, basic but very important principles about behavior that this is their way of communicating. And then if they do that, they also have functions. Dili lang kay usara gid ang reason nganong ni kuan siya kay ni flap siya or happy siya or frustrated siya. Different reasons or functions of those behaviors being manifested. So first is attention. So ganahan sila na may mga bata na they really want your attention. And then attention doesn't only mean nga mutanaw kanila. Attention could be your voice, the sound of your voice, your presence, your eye contact, and maski gi-reprimand mo, it's still, even if it's negative attention, it's still attention. So kung ganahan sila na you will give them attention, they act in a certain manner to be able to get your attention. Next is escape. So as I have mentioned earlier, deficient sila in communication. So if they find the activity difficult, boring, or too easy for them, they want to escape. So there are different manifestations. Lain-lain sad sa mga bata na they express themselves differently. So kung ganahan sila mo escape, it could be muhilak or manggrab sa mga butang or ipanglabay ang mga materials nga imong ipabuhat sa ilaha. So that is a way of escaping. And then self-reinforcing, katong mga stereotypic na mga behavior of kids with autism, katong spinning, hand flapping, head banging. So mao na ilang gigamit because they are automatically reinforcing themselves. Kanang murag maingon mo nag-steaming siya because he's trying to relax himself or he's trying to get away from a stressful environment. So ilan ang gibuhat. Is it good na ato silang ipa flap hands or ipa spin? Like what Ma'am Sandra said, after all those Japanese employees doing their work, at the end of the day at 3 o'clock, they flap together. So it's their way of distressing or unwinding. So nakuan man nila, they were able to do their task. So it's but proper for them to flap. Okay, ma-reinforce po din siya. They're doing good jobs. And we cannot suppress also self-reinforcing behaviors. We only redirect. We cannot stop. We cannot also punish, because punishment is not part of behavior management. So we allow them at a certain time. We use it as a reinforcement or as a reward. So if they do good behavior, if they manifest good behavior, we allow them to stim. Okay, we cannot stop the stimming. We can only redirect, make it more appropriate and more functional. Dili gid siya pwede ma-stop, because if you stop, another or more worse na behavior will happen. Okay? And then another function of behavior is access to activities or items. So since deficient sila sa communication, they're not able to ask or request properly the things that they want to do or things that they want to convey to you. Muna nga, they use this behavior. So different. I don't know how your kids express their ability to request things or the things that they desire or want. So wala ko kay bao how these kids of yours manifest behavior, but in the center, most of the kids, they really do tantrums. Sometimes they just run across the gym, and then they would escape, and then they would grab. This is a hand leading, because they want something. So they get your hand and then bring your hand to an item or an object that they want. Or sometimes kung hiun gud sila and then or gigutom, in the center we teach them makaton signing so that they'll be able to lessen their frustration. Kay maong na mga frustration sa mga bata na they cannot express themselves. So for those 4 functions, knowing this, we have different interventions to do. So we plan things to do and then we implement them and reassess them. But I cannot mention this at this moment because due to the limited time. But in Reach, all the parents and all the caregivers are being empowered by giving them seminars like this. And then kung kuansad ka, if you are a new parent, you'll be given special training. You'll be met by the parents and by the teachers and other professionals, so that you'll be guided in how to deal with the behaviors of your kids. So after the functions, as I have said, we plan, we implement, but we have to remember that all behaviors are their means of communicating to us. So dili lang yun na siya kay what do you call this? Nag-misbehave or kanang bad parenting kay wala na disiplina. They have purpose of displaying this kind of behaviors. So first, it is communication. Behavior occurs for a reason, and it's their way of communicating, and it is maintained. It is maintained when it is rewarding in some way. Like for example, you brought your kid in a store and he wants something, pero dili ka mo give in because you didn't bring money to buy such thing. And then what he does is cried or lie on the floor. So what are you going to do? Ang normal jud na kuan mahitabo is huy pakauwaw lang ka, so kay di naman ka manghuam sa tagpatabi kay aron makuha aron mapalit na nato. It is one way of unsaman maintaining that bad behavior. Bantayi, next time he wants something, he will do the same. So kadto bahala na naghilak-hilak or nagligid-ligid, biyay mo kuan ra man na mo sunod ra nimo. So do not give in to that kind of behavior that he manifested, because the next time he will do the same. So mauna siya ang makapa-maintain, murabag makapa-establish a behavior nga, uy, magin-ani day ko, I will be able to get what I want. So mauna siya ang ginadili gyud sa kuan. Although kay baw gyud ta, even neurotypical kids, if they do that, so mukuan gyud ta, mo give in kay uy mauta kay nay dagang taon nagilak-hilak ka diha mauta. So bangon diha kay paliton ra niya. So the next time mo gihapon na iyang buhaton. I think these are some of the signs, but it was mentioned, they were mentioned already earlier by Mom Sandra and by Mom Sandra. So I think that ends my talk about behavior. But if you have questions, we can be reached at our website, parentsreachcenter.com. So and you can also call our number. So we have it in the website. We have our contact number also. So to end this, I would like to share to you, I don't know if you are familiar with the Serenity Prayer. So we will pray that God will grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Good morning.
Okay, thank you, Teacher Stock, for that wonderful presentation about behavior management. So now the floor is open for any questions for our speakers.
Thank you for that question, sir. We are located at Bumbil Drive, Lower Monterasas, Sitio Kamanggahan, Barangay Guadalupe, Cebu City. Among main gid before was at Juana Osmeña and Mandaue. But due to pandemic, nag-close ang Mandaue and then ang Kuansad ang Juana Osmeña. But now we are open with the facilities of swimming pool, gym, and playground sa Guadalupe. A bigger venue. Yes, naaybayad. But we do have 10 scholar grantees this year. 10 of them. Yes, ma'am. Yes, questions po. Yes, pwede ra gyud mo apply, but we have to remember that we have also criteria or requirements for the grant, for the scholarship grants. No, our teachers, as we have mentioned earlier, it's a multidisciplinary team. So we have special education teacher, we have behaviorist, we have OT, and on-call speech pathologist. I would like to clarify lang because I know there was one person who questioned about speech therapy. Our center is giving service not only kanang individual speech, individual OT, we integrated it in our daily program. So we have behavior management, OT and communication, the speech, all in one. You don't have to pay separately. Kay bawgid me, we are aware that speech therapy is pricey and also OT is pricey, but all our teachers are trained to do all these things basically, so to give you the quality of the tuition fee that you paid to us. So all in price of one. Yes, ma'am. So as what as what Ma'am Sandra mentioned earlier, so all those characteristic signs that you have, or red flags that you have seen in that child. So kung musulod na out of 10, if musulod 3 or 4, could be. No, but we can decipher that this kid has special needs, but it's only the developmental pediatrician will be able to diagnose and give the evaluation. We can recommend sa parents, or we can tell the parents nga mami murag lahi man gyud ni siya. So pwede ato lang to give you peace of mind and benefit of our doubts nga wala siya kuan special needs. Yes, ma'am. Wala mi age nga kuan because our youngest was 1.8. So as early as 1.8 we begin intervention because we always believe early intervention is the best. Good question. Dili siya per session as we have daily siya program of 3 hours a day. So there is morning and there is afternoon session. So if we put you in a morning session, you will be given 3 hours a day. So from 9 to 12 and then 1 to 4 in the afternoon. And then that class, as I've said, includes OT, communication, behavior, o unsa pa na mga issues sa imuhang anak nga na we address it. You can call us. You can call us, but yes, different man gud ang ages. Like for example, 1 to 5 different ang levels of or mode levels of groupings na mo different, and then different po ang price. Yes, contact number.
Pwede ra mo kuan mo tawag sa among landline 342-7337. 7337.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Earlier, na late. Oh, we have 4 already as what Ma'am Sandra mentioned earlier. So si Dr. Jackie Espina, so si Dr. Amira Altonaga, si Christine Cusi, ug si Steven Seno. 4 na. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Pwede ra gyud mo apply, sir, and then naaman mi social worker na mo kuan sa requirements. If you qualify, i-endorse mo sa REACH. Thank you. Ay, there's a question in the chat.
Any advice on how to handle a female adolescent within the spectrum who has aggression?
This is really the forte of Teacher Sok. Behavior. So you will answer this question.
Estudyante ni namo, sir? Okay. So as I have mentioned, behaviors have different functions. So we have to see the child, observe the child before we can give intervention. So we cannot just say na ingon ana siya, pwede na kumuhatag na muna buhaton. I have to really see, really have to see that child, how she works, and then how the aggression is being kung kinam go intensity, ang magnitude. So daghan pa siya ikuan ang frequency pag yun, and then we have to really know, establish a pattern, and then hibaw-an nato kung unsa gyud function sa iyang behavior. So it takes time. And then if you can call us through our number, I'll be able to to answer the question further. Actually, Reach Center, ang among kuan gyud is in Guadalupe, but we do also online and home base na kanang kuan teaching. So nami online classes from clients from Daan Bantayan, Santa Fe, we have San Fernando before, and then walay karkar, Bohol and other neighboring towns. Then naasad may home program. So kanang Davao, sir, pwede, attorney, pwede rin na siya mag-home program, bata layo amang pud sa layo. But if aggression, lisod kaayo. Ah. Okay. So naami online. If the kid is diagnosed, we can brief the one who's going to assist that child during the online class. So I think no more questions. So thank you so much for those who have their questions and interest to reach center. I'll give the mic to our.
We would like to thank the DSWS headed by Dr. Concha for making this activity for today possible, and Cebu City Mayor Mike Rama and the CPDO Yumi Espina for attending this session also. We would like to thank also the Rotary Club of Guadalupe and the Rotary Club of Cebu Fuente for the Cebu Fuente has been espousing autism to the barangays for so many years already. And we are very pleased that Attorney Burns is with us to further strengthen the advocacy of autism, not only here in Cebu City, but also outside of Cebu City now. So as you all know, the webinar has reached Mindanao area, Davao, Tagum, General Santos, Ormoc, Dumaguete, and Leyte. So this is the advocacy of Rotary Club of Cebu Fuente, and President Burns, who is the immediate past president, has been very active in espousing this advocacy. So we would like to thank everybody for giving time and recognition to these persons with autism. Please learn to appreciate them, learn to accommodate them, learn to respect them, and learn to love them as a member of society. Thank you very much and a pleasant morning to everyone. Can we have a group picture before we leave? Asaman. Please take your
Maybe the Rotarians can just stay on the sides or where there are spaces while we ask the participants to just remain on their seats.
It's close to midnight and something evil's lurking in the dark. Under the moonlight, you see a sight that almost stops your heart. You try to scream, but terror takes a sound before you make it. You start to freeze as horror looks you right between the eyes. You're paralyzed, 'cause this is thriller night, and no one's gonna save you from the beast about to strike. You know it's thriller night. You're fighting for your life inside a killer thriller tonight. You hear the door slam and realize there's nowhere left to run. You feel the cold hand and wonder if you ever see the sun. You close your eyes and hope that this is just imagination.